YouTube Ozzy going the Goat House is back after week 2 of NFL preseason. I got a stock report. Some teams stock up, some stock down. Been doing this every single week. In season, we got power rankings. I rank every team every week, kind of give a stock report how things are going for each team. Also in this video at the end, I got a list of takeaways, slight movement in terms of stock, maybe some talk about some units or how players are playing, what to look for. So really excited about this one. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Always talking on Twitter, got preseason picks on there, talking during live games, constant updates, a lot of roster cuts, trades going on this time of year. So check out that Twitter, link down below, help us get to 10K, like, subscribe, full NFL coverage here. Cannot wait for the in-season content. Join us. Here's our Twitter. Yep, some updates. Roster cuts going down. Suspensions been given out. A lot going on here. So we were talking about rookie stats through 2 weeks of preseason on here. So it's a good thing to follow the Twitter. A lot of updates there. If you don't have a Twitter, make one. First team stock up. Going with the Saints. Last week we had down. We talked about it. They were just sloppy, turned the ball over. Kind of chalked it up a little bit to being, just the first preseason game. I think that's what the case was. Also, they switched starting quarterbacks for this game. Jameis Winston, who I've been calling for, I think a lot of people have. He's the guy. I mean, it's got to be his. If they don't start Jameis Winston, I don't even know. We got a problem. It'll be a long shot for Taysom Hill to start. Try not to overreact too much from especially 2 series of a game, but I really liked what I saw from the Saints. Jameis Winston he looked good. He looked real good, just slinging the ball, still got that deep ball. People forget just because how many interceptions he threw on a different team, that he's got a pretty deep ball. He's got an arm, and he makes some big plays. So, yeah, I thought he looked calm, relaxed, took care of the ball, accurate throws. That guy Marquez Callaway was lighting it up. I've been hyping him up, but again, I don't want to overreact from a couple plays in preseason, but some of those plays don't just happen because they're preseason. They don't just happen for fluke reasons. That guy's getting better. And we talked about how I thought he was maybe a future first, second round pick. After his first year, he got playing time in Tennessee, and it kind of went downhill. And, yeah, you got to credit the Saints. The Saints, again, I don't want to base things too much off preseason, but just based off the past in general, too. They are, you got to give credit to how they develop players, look at a guy like Tony Jones Jr. coming out of Notre Dame. You thought maybe this guy had to be a fullback because he's big and he's not fast enough. All of a sudden, this guy's super quick. They got him at kick returner. Apparently, he's giving Latavius Murray a run for his money. So you got to give credit to the Saints coaching staff. Their program there. Defense is playing hard as well, but mainly what I loved was how the offense was orchestrated with Jameis Winston in there, or regardless, but I think it helped that Jameis Winston was in there. I love the tempo. They were getting on the ball when they needed to. They were getting in the huddle when they needed to. The correct play calls. Love the play calls. Knowing when to set up that deep ball, something they really couldn't do in the past. So for all those reasons, I kind of get hyped in the Saints. The Jameis Winston Saints, a little bit different look. They're able to, I just love the way that offense is orchestrated. So it's a team that's really growing on me. I don't want to base too much off 1 week of preseason, but I'm getting a little hyped, as you can tell, for that team. I just wish David Onyemata wasn't suspended 6 games. Let's see how they come away after those 6 games. That's a bigger one than, Michael Thomas, a way bigger player, and they still need another receiver with Callaway. But you could debate that Onyemata is kind of a major one. I mean, it is a major one there, but hopefully they get him and Michael Thomas back, and that's a pretty dangerous team. Obviously, hopefully get the other cornerback decided who's going to play there too. But I really liked what I saw from the Saints. Patriots next. I like what I see from the Patriots as well. They look good in the first week as well, but after this game, just a dominant performance. But it's not all about, I don't base this off what the score was, if you won or lost in preseason, mainly basing it on who the starters could be, how they look as a team, how they're coached. But just look completely balanced, both sides of the ball. I mean, they're really getting Judon going. The pass rush is great. I like the secondary. So the defense, it wasn't really a worry. I really like what I'm seeing from the defense. They're getting constant pass rush at this stage in preseason. Offensively, I'm more comfortable with either quarterback. Kind of been a Mac Jones guy. Cam Newton looked really good, though he looked like he got better somehow. So I'm comfortable. Before I was like, it's got to be Mac Jones. I still think it should be Mac Jones, but I'm comfortable with the Patriots with either quarterback really at this point. I mean, they got the running back group. Something I noticed, though, something we all noticed in the offseason, in free agency, they added 2 tight ends, big-time tight ends, Johnny Smith, Hunter Henry. So what was that? What is that about? They're going back to their old ways, playing, more bunch formations, using 2 tight ends at a time, running the ball, kind of throwing teams off. Are they going to run the ball? They're going to throw the tight end. These tight ends blocking. What the hell are they doing? Kind of going back to their roots, and that was kind of the good thing, especially because you got big-time tight ends. Well, they were out of tight ends pretty much in this game, besides one was that Asiasi was playing. So they were almost adjusting their system. We seen them run 4 wide at time, and they look pretty damn good doing it, So everything just seems to be clicking, unlike last year. And again, it's preseason. Will it click in the regular season? That's what we're here to figure out. But just all around, I really like what I see. Mac Jones he didn't look like a rookie. He hasn't looked like a rookie either. He looks calm, smooth. He's a smart quarterback. We knew that. We knew that he was smart, and we knew the awareness. That was the main thing I was hyping up pre-draft. His awareness, ridiculous. You can see it here. So he looks real good too. But again, Cam had a really good game. He's going to be out for, 4 more days now. Some COVID protocols, so that's unfortunate for him. But the Patriots definitely stock up there. Steelers, I like what I see from the Steelers as well. You see finally the starters getting in on some action because they've actually played 3 preseason games. But Big Ben looked pretty good, slinging the ball, was connecting with Freiermuth, their rookie, so he looks pretty promising. Ebron was getting some yards too, so it's not like one tight end or the other. You can get a little creative with that, so I do like that. Najee Harris has looked good. Catching the ball, too, what he really improved on last year at Alabama. So they're showing us that he's going to be a factor for them. They're going to use him. And, what you really worry about with the Steelers is their pass protection because the offensive line on paper in terms of pass protection, like I've been saying, it looks bad in general on paper, but I actually think it might have got better in terms of the run blocking. We'll see. But on paper, still, it looks atrocious in terms of the pass protection. But I just don't think it's actually that. I don't think it's that bad. Like, they're just... We'll see, but they do so well developing these guys, coaching these guys. It shows that maybe the coaching a unit, the system, the scheme decides the offensive line. So the teams with the struggling offensive lines are probably doing it wrong there. So some promise there. Like I said, Big Ben slinging it around. I was never worried about the Steelers' defense, so that's kind of just where it's been. But yeah, some hope there that they can kind of turn things around, look like, that early season Steelers perhaps from last year. So, or most of the season, I guess we could say. So, yeah, like what I'm seeing from the Steelers. Texans, how about the Texans, most projected team to finish at the bottom of the NFL. Pretty good through a couple weeks. And, I do think it's due to their depth. They have really good depth. They made some big-time depth signings. We really don't know who's starting here, there. It's because they're, guys that are pretty even across the board. So we talked about that as a minor takeaway last week. Love the depth, but it's really showing here. Whoever they rotate in, like these guys are going to be playing in the game, whether they're starting or not, rotating or in, whatever it is. And they're making plays out there. You look at the defense, they're getting their hands on the ball. It looks like a playmaking defense right now. Is it because they're going up against preseason? It could be. But credit Lovie Smith here. The defense is completely different. And, maybe just the way he's coaching things up is throwing teams off and is a reason they continue to kind of get their hands on the ball, be a playmaking defense. Menahu really stepped up. He had a pretty big game. I was calling him a breakout candidate this year. A little bit different role in this scheme. So maybe that's just changing things for the better. Offensively, Davis Mills looked pretty solid. We still think and we still know it's going to be Tyrod Taylor. Running back room looks great. I don't know what the hell just came out of my mouth. But yeah, so maybe I guess maybe a little bit of a sneaky team. People are still going to predict them at the bottom, but they could be a little sneaky throughout the year, I suppose. Another AFC South team go to the Tennessee Titans. Last week I had them on that list of takeaways, minor takeaways, slight stock up maybe because I liked the way they were doing what they were doing with their defense. Last year was kind of a mess. I thought, really how they ran it, but also, the lack of pass rush made things worse. They went out and got better in the offseason, and not even nearly all the starters have been playing in preseason, but mainly just looking how they're running things over there. It looks a lot cleaner, I guess, is a good way to put it. A lot smoother. We see young guys getting out there like Elijah Molden making plays. They're getting creative with him in that way. So it's a really good sign. So back-to-back weeks where I'm feeling more and more confident about the Titans defense, and how it's being run. They're not just the players, but the players did get better in terms of the players on the field in the offseason as well. So that's a good sign as well there. So good sign for the Titans. Stock down. We had up for the Bears last week. Now they go down. A pretty brutal game for them. Really all around. Their former quarterback, Mitchell Trubisky, beats them up. Pretty good there. Defensively, they were, maybe it was because it's preseason, but yeah, they weren't getting physical. They were leaving a lot of cushion, a lot of space in between receivers. It was like a free 5 to 10 yards every single time. And they were getting gassed pretty early. There was some poor tackling, some poor angles. So that did not look good, especially going against, it was majority of their starters. I think pretty much every starter, maybe missing 2 out there for the first few series. Even Khalil Mack was out there for those first few series there. And that's going against, no Josh Allen, no Stephon Diggs. So that wasn't good. Maybe to think positively, maybe it's because it's preseason. They weren't being as physical. We'll see. Offensively, it's just with Dalton in there, it's just that same bland offense, boring offense, so predictable, no explosive plays. And could judge a little more Robinson and company out there, Montgomery, Mooney. It definitely could make Dalton better, but it's just such a boring, easy to stop offense that it's just not, it's not going to work, and definitely more explosive with Justin Fields out there. He's playing, some more of the 2s and the 3. Well, actually, that's the thing too. The Dalton, that offense is out there with Dalton. I know they were missing some starters, but the Bills really didn't have too many starters, only a few maybe. So by the time Fields is in, you're playing pretty deep down the depth chart, so it's pretty hard to judge, but he definitely gives them more explosive plays. And the play calling seems to be better with Justin Fields. That's because he's versatile, as a quarterback, and that makes you more versatile as a play caller and Matt Nagy, So, yeah, it was a tough outing. Special teams, too. Actually, even though I had stock up last week in general, the punt team actually worried me, and once again, it did. So hopefully they can clean that up a bit. But it sounds like Dalton's going to be – and last week, another reason stock was up because I thought they were maybe going to gear towards, okay, Justin Fields could be the starter, and that makes me think the Bears' offense is better. But now it's like, okay, Dalton's a starter unless Nagy's playing games with McVay and the Rams. But if Dalton's a starter, then it's not too excited about the Bears team anymore, So stock down after that one. And last night, the Jaguars, rough one there. I mean, I had them in the takeaways list last week. Because I said I was worried about their offensive line. On paper, it looks pretty promising. A lot of young guys that can step up, and so it struggled last week. Lawrence was hit a lot, was sacked, and so it started to worry me a little bit. Week 2, it's really worrying me now. It really struggled. Trevor Lawrence was pressured on every single play, was hit. He made some throws where his job is being, just plain and simple, let's get to it. His job is being made a lot harder because of that. And he could play better too, but he made some ridiculous throws that, while he's being pressured, while there's a guy in his face, while he's getting hit. So that was tough. The play calling's pretty terrible. Maybe they're not trying to show everything, but the play calling is pretty bad. Lack of separation from receivers, even though we view on paper, again, like the offensive line, on paper, the receivers look like they should be better. But we'll see when the full thing's out there. ETN goes down. He's going to miss the whole season now, so it's kind of a disaster there. Defense, some of the calls on defense, gave, the Saints some shots downfield, cover 0 call at one point, just making calls in the wrong time. It looks like they're running that multiple defense, not a fan of. Their pass rush started to get after a little bit when the Saints backups came in, so that was good. Secondary didn't play all that well, but kind of was put in a tough situation by how the defense – how they're running things. So just everything kind of has all coming together. Just did not like what I saw. My views in this team going into the season were they're going to give up some big plays. They're going to give up some yards. They're going to give them some points. It's a work in progress. They're still trying to get the firm identity on the defense right now. They got a bunch of versatile young players, but their offense should be able to keep up with teams, for the most part, and be explosive. They should be a pretty good, in terms of play calling, the system. But that is now starting to worry me, and I guess it starts with the offensive line. So getting a little scared for the Jaguars. I can't base everything off the preseason so far, but it is a little scary. And then a long list of takeaways we have here. The Jets, Wilson looks smooth, look good. With Corey Davis, it looks like a really good connection there. Corey Davis' stock continues to soar in terms of fantasy. Defense definitely took a major hit since last time we talked. Carl Lawson out for the season, so that's a tough blow. Vinny Curry just very recently on some reserve lists. So there's no pass rush. It's pretty much Quinn Williams from wherever he's rushing from. And then you look, the game they won against the Packers, but their starters currently, for the most part, were out there against Packers backups, 2s and 3s, and they were able to push the ball a little bit. So they're going to have to do some work and add some pass rushers for sure. That'll help. Bills, their stock was up last week. They don't really have any room to grow at this point, so it's tough, but the offense looks great, and you may say, well, it wasn't even their offense. It wasn't Josh Allen, wasn't Stephon Diggs. Correct. That makes it look even better. Brian Daboll is just such a genius of an offense coordinator. It's just the tempo, the play calls, how quick it is. Teams just don't know. He's not going by a handbook. I hate that play callers kind of just, it's almost like they go about some handbook. You got to run the ball here. You have to pass the, he just does what he does. And I think it works out. It makes Mitchell Trubisky look like a better quarterback. So I love the offense. Like I talked about last week, I love that they're trying to establish the run a little more. But again, they're not going by, you have to establish the run on first down. And, I love it. They're not going about, there's too many coordinators, too many teams that just feels like they're following a checklist. I can't stand it. So love what the Bills are doing there. Vikings, defense looks good. We got to see most of their starters out there this week. It looked pretty good. Bashaud Breeland really stood out. So he won that starting job opposite of Patrick Peterson. Defense looks kind of where we expected it to be. Nothing, it's nothing, oh my God, but it should be good with the revamp they did. Worried about Anthony Barr though, a new injury for him, but I'm not worried about the defense. My point, offense, not so much in terms of looking solid. They couldn't really get anything, and it was what some of their starters out there. Dalvin Cook wasn't out there. Thielen played one snap, got hurt, but that's not a good sign. And he's going to be okay, but it's just not a good sign. Jefferson wasn't out there, so the top tier playmakers weren't out there. So I guess the lack of separation played a part, but I'm not in love with the play calling, and then the offensive line is. I had the very first week we did stock up, stock down. I had them stock down and that was before a preseason game for them even took place. And that was because I was realizing what was happening with that offense. The offensive line mainly is a mess. So really worried about that for them. Dolphins, Tua looked good. Tua looked comfortable. You go back to Bama, Tua. It really didn't even look like everybody that goes in there, it looks like a Bama offense. But when Tua was there, it felt like that was Tua's offense. Tua, like the offense ran through him. That was his. They were playing Tua ball. They weren't playing Bama ball. You could debate that, but that's really felt like to me. And last year with the Dolphins, I don't know what the hell kind of ball they were playing. It just wasn't right. Tua wasn't comfortable because it wasn't right. They got the right additions, the players in there. Tua looks really comfortable. It looks like they're playing some smooth football right now. So that's a good sign. Running game picked. Overall, they had a great game. A lot of the Falcons backups, Jacoby Brissett looks good too, the backup quarterback. Running game took off a little bit. See Gaskin taking off. How will it be inconsistent? You still worry about that a little bit. Cardinals, Kyler Murray played, limited snaps, but didn't play too well. Offensive line sure didn't help him at all. Chalk it up to rust. Very rusty because Murray just looked like he was just trying to whip the ball as hard as he could. And he was really off target. Offensive line was letting guys in instantly, and he was forced out to the right. It looked like the end of the year Cardinals. That's literally what it looked like. So you start to worry. I'm going to chalk it up to rust, but you do start to worry because early season Cardinals, one of the best offenses in football. Kyler Murray's like, okay, he's rapidly progressing. And then the full offensive line would be out there in the regular season. So we kind of chalk it up to those things, but it kind of looks like the late year Cardinals offense, which you worry about a little bit. Red zone defense was good last year, better than in general the defense. It looked real good again. It's stout. It's a stout red zone defense, and we factor in maybe the pass rush of J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones. Defense should be better. But keeping the cheat, Mahomes is out there for a bit. He was out there for a bit, and they were keeping him out of the end zone. Byron Murphy actually got a pick on him. It was a fantastic pick, by the way. So that looks good. Kind of backwards with the Cardinals. Feel like be more comfortable with the offense right now, less comfortable with the defense. So where are we at with that? Washington, the pass protection worries me a bit. Fitzpatrick was pressured quite often. And, I wasn't never really worried about the run blocking with them, but, the pass protection, the tackle play perhaps, even interior pressure, perhaps at times. So it does worry me a bit. It wasn't good last year. I could see it being worse this year in terms of the pass protection. So that could stop them. They got some talent. Love what I'm seeing from Antonio Gibson. Fitzpatrick, when he's able to throw a ball, he had De'Ami Brown on a back shoulder. That was beautiful from both sides there, from both the quarterback and receiver. His offensive line worries me. It's starting to worry me. So hopefully it's not a trend, because I had the Jags up here last week. It's starting to worry me, and now it's really worrying me. So hopefully it's not a trend there. I trust it more than the Jags. 49ers need a receiver. I've kind of said that before. It just feels like Deebo Samuel, who's great but has injury concern. Brandon Ayuk, that's pretty much who's out there. Next is pretty much Sanu, and you get a lot better there. And considering Deebo Samuel's injury concern, what if he goes down? Ayuk is by himself for the most part. They got guys that are, again, don't get me wrong, they're solid depth guys. They're solid depth guys. That's kind of my point there. And there was some drops. They were tough catches. Quarterbacks were throwing a little wild, a little inconsistent with the quarterbacks. Trey Lance, he had moments where it was like, wow, yes, that's why they took him third. And there was moments where like, oh, God, maybe they do got to play Garoppolo first. But they need another starting caliber receiver out there. I really think so. But Trey Lance, sometimes he just looks like he's trying to just whip the ball as hard as he can. Kind of Murray's problem was. But kind of relax, calm down. He's got the velocity on the ball. When it's the time to use that, it looks pretty. But then something else, if Trey Lance were to play in the regular season, they would have a lot more designed runs for him. They don't have that right now. They're saving it. I could pretty much guarantee that. There's no way they're that stupid. So I could pretty much guarantee they're hiding quite a bit. Maybe they're going to hide Trey Lance completely for this whole season. We'll see. Rams need a running back. Darrell Henderson has a thumb injury. It just seems like minor injuries that pop up. He's talented, but in the backups are those are third string running backs in my opinion. They need a running back. Maybe they dive into free agency. Todd Gurley, familiar face. Adrian Peterson. Maybe they make a trade. We'll see. I think they need one. How about Chris Garrett? Is a guy I got grades on. I can't even count how many prospects in the draft. You guys know. Didn't have one on Chris Garrett. Concordia St. Paul, Minnesota. That small school guy there. They take 7th round. Credit to them. Their scouting staff there, because it looks like they found a hidden gem there. This guy's all over the place. He might be starting opposite of Leonard Floyd. And why that's kind of a good thing here is because they develop well, they scout well. They coach well. It's just you think they're missing something opposite of Leonard Floyd in that edge rush spot, but maybe they're not. They got some pretty decent depth too. As a guy like Terrell Lewis going to step up, so I feel a little more comfortable with those guys that are kind of no-name guys on that defense. That probably better than you think. Brandon Staley's gone. They're still doing their thing there with these defenders. Falcons' the depth looks really they're pretty poor in terms of the depth. And I really wish some more starters were out there. New coaching staff, both sides, offense, defense, new coaching staff. Wish they were getting some reps. If anybody goes down, that depth is pretty brutal. They're getting their ass beat in preseason. It's preseason, but it's all right. So it's maybe it's all right. We'll see. Ravens, defense looks great. The way they coach, prepare this team in general, the preseason record they got, you love it. You got to respect it. Defense looks great, though. We see the starters out there. They're flying around the field. They're making plays. They're playmakers out there, game changers. It's a team I'm comfortable with, obviously. And the Broncos, did Drew Lock kind of get hopped all of a sudden? Teddy Bridgewater looked real good. He played with the ones. Drew Lock didn't play nearly as good as he played last week, but, wasn't bad. Teddy looks like he handles pressure a lot better. It looks like the footwork, everything's a lot better. But Locke has that explosive playability, that big playability, and the upside. So now it sounds like Teddy's going to be quarterback one. I'm getting, before all this, it was like, oh, God, are the Broncos in trouble at quarterback if it's Drew Lock or it's Teddy Bridgewater? Now you feel a little more comfortable. No matter who it is, you feel a little more comfortable. So that's, overall a good thing. It's a really good roster. Let's see what happens. It's the biggest battle, in my opinion, of training camp / preseason. We'll see what happens here. Very curious to see. So that is my post week 2. So heading into week 3 of preseason takeaways, stock report. So let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments. We're talking on Twitter constant updates, a lot of roster moves. And by this time next week, roster's going from 80 to 53. So a lot of things to cover right when they break, right when the news happens on our Twitter. So check it out. Cannot wait for all that NFL action there. So hopefully you join us here and on our Twitter for all that NFL action. That's going to do it for this one, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.